Hi guys and welcome back to the Red Mist podcast with me Seshadri and welcome to Liverpool on Tuesdays, the second episode. Yes, we are back again for our weekly show Liverpool on Tuesdays. It's a new thing on this podcast. If you guys aren't aware, there is an announcement episode a couple of weeks back which I did. But instead of the usual sort of post-match stuff, this is what we're going to be doing. We're going to be looking at Liverpool over the past 1 week. And we're going to do it every Tuesday. The title's pretty self-explanatory. And I don't think that needs much more expanding upon. But we're here at the end of a mixed week. We did this episode last Tuesday, which was the day. We did this last on Monday, and the episode came out on Tuesday. And that was the day when Liverpool were taking on Real Madrid, away from home, obviously, in the quarterfinals of the Champions League, the first leg. And then over the weekend, we took on Aston Villa. So, mixed week. We lost to Real Madrid, for those of you who've been living under a rock. We lost 3-1 to Real Madrid and we beat Aston Villa 2-1 thanks to a last-minute Trent Alexander-Arnold goal. Lots to unpack. Nothing much else went on over the weekend. I can say that much. But lots to unpack over these two games. And let's just get right to it. I mean, Real Madrid 3, Liverpool 1. So let's just start with the lineups there. I think the first big surprise for me was the fact that Naby Keita was playing and there was no Thiago in the lineup. Thiago taking time to adjust to the Premier League is something I can understand. Obviously, he's gotten to speed there and he looks a lot more comfortable there now. Which only adds to the perplexed nature of this decision because if you're not going to play Thiago, who's won the Champions League with Bayern Munich last year, who was arguably one of their best players last year, if you're not going to play him in Europe, what are you saving him for? I just don't understand. What are you saving this guy for if you're not going to play him in Europe? And look, Naby Keita is a good midfielder, but I'll be very honest. The reason that Klopp said he was in the lineup was because he had impressed in training. Now, I'm sorry, but impressing against people like Reece Williams and Nico Williams, no offense to those two players, but it is not the same as impressing against Real Madrid. It's not even the same as impressing against Burnley, forget Real Madrid. So, it was very perplexing to me that Thiago was not in the lineup. In fact, I remember going through the lineup and I sort of just skimmed through it. I didn't quite, pay attention to what was happening because I just assumed that Thiago would be there. I think if there was any change that I was expecting, it was that Firmino would be benched and Jota would start, which was the case that day. But that was kind of the only change that I was expecting. After having seen Firmino in the starting lineup for so many games across so many years, that's kind of the only change you're looking for. Is he starting again? And if not, is Diogo Jota starting? So that's kind of the only thing you're looking for, which again makes this very, very baffling. The fact that Thiago was not in the lineup, and it was an absolutely abject performance to start the game. I mean, let's be real, Real Madrid were the better team. How many ever, minutes you want to say into the game. They were just the better team. They started off better, they showed more intent, they pressed higher, they pressed harder, they denied space, they were really good in the game. Their midfield was much better than our midfield, let's be real. And defensively, you can point fingers at other players if you want to, but honestly, I think the biggest culprit is Trent Alexander-Arnold. The man had no sense of what was going on. He was lost. He was basically just, he was in another game entirely because the amount of space Vinicius had over there, he could have literally built a mansion in the space that he had, in the space that Trent was giving him. And it just made Southgate's point. The reason he was, or at least the speculation about Trent being dropped from the England squad was, he's defensively liable and how much space is he going to leave? If he comes up against a good winger, he's going to struggle. And, he proved his point. And Vinicius is not even having the best of seasons for Real Madrid. So, if that guy can have that game, imagine what, Mbappe can do. Imagine what Diogo Jota can do in the Euros. So I get, for all those people who, including myself, let's be real, I'll hold my hands up and I'll say, look, I bigged up Trent after the Arsenal game. I'll be very honest with you. But, the Real Madrid game was a crash back to reality, I think, for a lot of us. And I think for Trent himself as well. It was a crash back to reality. He had no idea what he was doing defensively. He was just unbelievably lost. And it cost us. The simple fact of the matter is it cost us. And Vinicius, with or without those 2 goals, he is still, he would still have been a contender for man of the match, with or without those goals. And it literally made no sense. There was no intent, there was no passion, there was no willingness to work hard. I mean, the effort's there. The mentality to put in the effort is there. I can see that they want to do well, but if it doesn't translate onto the pitch, there's no point. Like, in my mind, I can think a lot of things, but if it doesn't translate onto the pitch, there's literally no point. So Trent being in that game, I just have no words for his performance, honestly. And the midfield was no better. The midfield was just as bad. Like I mentioned earlier, there was no pressure on Toni Kroos. There was nothing. Like, Toni Kroos had a free rein. I mean, he was. I just, it's one thing. Look, we all know how good Toni Kroos is, and he is unbelievable as a player. He's a World Cup winner, he's a multiple Champions League winner, and he's an unbelievable player. He's played for Bayern, he's played for Real Madrid for so many years. I mean, at least pressurize him a little bit. At least give him some questions to answer. You can't just give him a blank sheet of paper and tell him to do whatever he likes, because what he likes to do is set up goals and control the tempo, control the play, which are all things he did on the day. And Real Madrid were definitely the better team. And the midfield, I mean, we talked about the defense a little bit, but the midfield was just as bad. And I think the decision to play Naby Keita was one that I just cannot explain. I don't know why Thiago did not start that game, because against a team like Real Madrid, I mean, what was the intention behind Keita starting? Like, I just don't get that. Like, look, when you have Thiago in your lineup, you're going to control possession. Like, when you have the ball, you're going to keep it calm. You're going to try and control the tempo. Real Madrid, there's always going to be that sense of, okay, we're not playing at our pace, we're playing at their pace. And Madrid's always going to have that whenever we have the ball, if you had Thiago in our lineup. But with Keita, I mean, what was your intention? To press Real Madrid high? Fine, if that was the case, and why weren't they pressing? Or why weren't, like, it just made no sense to me. It just absolutely made no sense to me. And if you thought, Naby Keita was going to harass an aging midfield of Toni Kroos and Luka Modric and Casemiro, I mean, you had another thing coming. Like, those guys are really good. Spoiler alert. Those guys are really good. I mean, yeah. And the biggest indictment for me was Klopp taking Keita off before halftime. Like, this was almost on the same level as Lovren being taken off at like 25 minutes against Spurs at Wembley. Except, Lovren learned from that and he got back into the team, and he actually played really well after that, especially in the second half of that 17-18 season. But Naby Keita, I don't have the confidence in him. Like, he's going to play well against teams like Bournemouth, but, that's not what we paid 50 odd million for. You're not to bloody play against Bournemouth. You need to be performing against teams like Madrid. And the fact of the matter is, he simply isn't. He simply isn't performing against good teams. And first of all, he's not even available half the time for him to perform against good teams. But that's a whole other story for another day. So like I said, Keita being just, anonymous, really, was something that hurt us. And Wijnaldum was no better. Let's be real. Wijnaldum was no better. Fabinho was having a stinker. It's just that the others were having much worse games. And that's why Fabinho is not being highlighted as much. But I thought the midfield three as a whole was doing really badly. We were just being overrun in midfield. They were finding all sorts of space. They were finding all sorts of passes through our midfield. It was an embarrassment. And, like I said, the Keita being taken off at halftime, before halftime, was an indictment on his performance, on the midfield's performance, and it's also an indictment on Klopp, because Thiago comes on and immediately we look much better. And not even like, wait until the second half. No, immediately when we have the ball, we look much better. And the second half, we played decently. But again, not good enough. One other talking point, Alisson, could he have done better on one of those goals? I remember the goal. It was a low shot. I would say this is one of those things where, if you've not been a keeper, I don't think it's not an easy one to save. I know a lot of people will disagree, but if you are a keeper, you will know those shots are difficult to save, especially something that's low down and close to your body. If you're trying to get at it with your hands, part of it is, you should learn to go down with your feet in some of those cases. And I'll get to that in the Aston Villa game, because I thought more than the Real Madrid game, I thought the Aston Villa Ollie Watkins goal was something that was easily savable. So I'll get to that a little later, but I do think this was a little more of a difficult shot for Alisson to save. There was a lot of power in it as well, and sometimes even if you palm it really well, it does tend to find the inside of the post. It's just one of those unfortunate things. It's happened to me. It's happened to keepers on every level, and it's just something that happens. You can't really blame Alisson on it. What I will say is, Alisson has set such a high standard that you kind of expect these saves from him, which is not a bad thing, but you've got to remember that these are difficult shots to save. So the fact that Alisson's done them before is, it's a good thing, but he if he's regressing to the mean, if he's had like some really good seasons and now he's coming back to the mean, then maybe we should concede that sometimes some shots are difficult to save. And for me, that's what that was really. I mentioned Toni Kroos, controlled the midfield, absolutely brilliant player, completely deserved man of the match. If it wasn't for the fact that Vinicius scored 2 goals, I think Toni Kroos would have got it. One other thing, I think, we've talked a lot about defense and all that. I think tactically the only thing that I will say is the high line on defense. I'm just not convinced it's good. I'm just not convinced that Kabak and Nat Phillips as a pairing are suited towards playing the high line. I can understand why you want to play the high line, especially considering, the mentality with which Klopp went into the game. They wanted to press, which is kind of why Keita was played as well. They wanted to press high up, and I can understand that. But when you're dealing with guys like Vinicius, it's maybe not a good idea, especially when you're missing your first choice centre back. It's maybe not the best of ideas to play that high. So that's kind of my take on it. Is it over? Is the tie over? 3-1. I think if it was 3-0, I would say it was effectively over. Obviously, we've had that comeback against Barcelona, but you've got to remember fans played a huge role in that game, in that comeback. So I wouldn't particularly say that. Is it over? I think the away goal is crucial. The fact that we got 1, which means we just now need to win 2-0 at Anfield. If we let Madrid score 1 goal, then we have to score 3 at least to send it to extra time. So it is Anfield, and we have just won against Aston Villa. So I'm not giving up hope just yet, but it will be difficult. If Madrid play the way they did, and if we play the way we did, I can see Madrid going through to the semi-finals. Now, the second game of the week, or rather the weekend, it was over the weekend. Liverpool 2, Aston Villa 1. It was pretty much the same Liverpool in the first half. A lot of poor play from our side, sloppy passes, not much creativity in the side, and we weren't capitalizing on mistakes that Villa were making. I think Salah had a really good chance that he should have put away, which just sort of went past the post. A couple of others as well, and their keeper also had a couple of good saves. I think Diogo Jota had a header that went straight to Martinez, if I'm not wrong, or just above the bar, one of them. So we've had a fair few shots, we've had a fair few opportunities, but in the end, again, it was the same story as before, Aston Villa taking the lead. Now, this is the one where I will say Alisson should have and could have done a lot better. The shot from Vinicius, it was at this sort of location down, towards Alisson's body, where your natural instinct is to go down with your hand, because it's not very close to your leg. If it's close to your leg, your natural instinct is to kick a leg out and just send the ball away somewhere. But with Vinicius' shot, it was more sort of in the hand territory. You're kind of more tempted to go down with your hand. So which is why I kind of understand. I kind of understand why Alisson dived for that. Now, the Watkins one, I just didn't understand. It was too close to his body for him to get his hands down in time for him to make a save. Like, the shot was pretty damn quick, because Watkins took it on the volley, if I'm not wrong, or there was a slight volley on it, whatever. So Watkins took it really well, and it was a low shot fizzing across the ground, and it's too close to his body for him to get his hand down in time. In those cases, you got to do a David De Gea. You have got to kick your leg out and just send it somewhere else. But that's just what David De Gea, at least prime David De Gea used to do. So there was that. Liverpool did get an equalizer that was ruled out through Bobby Firmino. There was a lot of controversy about the offside, and I get it. Look, VAR has spoiled the game. I wouldn't say, I'm not blaming the technology itself, but I think the way it's been used in England has spoiled the game. It's hard to quantify the advantage that Diogo Jota gets by being one sleeve offside, like 1 centimeter of his t-shirt, of his jersey being offside. It's hard to quantify that. And, Jota's getting a sprinting start. So if you look at the picture, he's kind of leaning more if that makes sense, when the ball is being kicked. And that's another thing. You don't even know when the ball is being kicked, because the image that was shown, you don't know the exact moment that the ball is being kicked, because Trent, at least from the cameras that we were seeing, the ball was blocked by another Liverpool player. I don't remember who, but you can see Trent shaping up to kick it, but when does he actually kick it is a question mark, because the view is obscured. Now, at least in the cameras that we've seen, and I don't know if the referees saw anything different. I don't think they did, because I think they show us the exact same thing that the referees see. There's a lot of controversy about that. I don't personally think that's offside. I mean, if the advantage is that minuscule, I don't think that's offside. And especially considering Jota was shaping up towards starting a run, whereas, you've got the defender who's playing him, quote unquote, the last man, basically, was sort of, he wasn't leaning as much. And if that's going to make a difference, then, I mean, really, it's quite hard. It's quite hard to because the argument is so stupid. Sometimes you realize the argument is so stupid you just can't argue against something like that, and that's just what this is. The second half we started a lot better. Mo Salah got the equalizer after Andy Robertson's shot was saved by Martinez. It was actually a good save, to be fair. And I know, again, see, this is my thing with pundits, right? You can't, and you can see the difference, especially in Sky Sports. I think when they had Joe Hart once or twice to analyze Premier League games, and you can see the difference that a goalkeeper brings, or a former goalkeeper brings, to the analysis of a goalkeeping error or a goalkeeping performance, because these guys who sit in commentary boxes, they have no idea what they're talking about when they're talking about goalkeeping. No matter how good a midfielder you are, you could have won the Ballon d'Or, you could have won everything there is to win as a player, but if you weren't a goalkeeper, you will never know what that's actually like, and you will never know what the mistakes are. You will never know, unless it's too obvious, unless it's a keeper fails to control a back pass or something. You will never know the mistake, the minor details of positioning, of vision, of of your body stance. You'll never know unless you're an actual keeper. You just will never know that. And yeah, I mean, so like I was saying, there was this one pundit, saying that Martinez should have maybe tried to palm it off somewhere else. He made the save. It was a good shot and it was a good save. It was a shot that was going towards the far post, if I'm not wrong, and he gets a good hand to it. Martinez gets a good hand to it. Let's be real, that's a good save. Any other keeper does that, that's a good save. If Salah is not on the end of that rebound, that's a good save. People will be lauding Martinez for a good save. And that's just what I don't get with these pundits. Or any of these I was going to say publishing houses, but media houses. Why don't you get a professional keeper there? Why don't you get someone like David James? Even they, just get someone there, a Premier League quality keeper who's kept in the Premier League, who knows what it's like to be a top level keeper. Get him there, let them talk about the keeping mistakes, because then there's some authority to it. Otherwise, there's just nothing. Anyway, Salah equalizes, and I thought in the second half, one of our biggest bright spots anyway, was Xherdan Shaqiri. Made a lot of difference after coming on, very creative, was involved in the winning goal as well, which was a last minute Trent goal. It was a good shot, screamer into the bottom corner. He did really well for that goal, but overall as a game, I would still say Trent was poor. Maybe not as poor as Real Madrid, but he was pretty damn poor. So, I mean, the goal isn't going to, it may paper over the cracks a little bit, but it's not going to hide the fact that Trent needs to do a lot better. And honestly, Southgate, after watching those 2 games, I don't think he'd be too disappointed in leaving out Trent from the England squad at all. But that's my take on Aston Villa. Looking ahead to this week, Liverpool take on Real Madrid at Anfield in the second leg. I've already spoken about this. I'm looking forward to the game. I think we can still do it, but it's going to be difficult. If we play the way we did against Real Madrid and even against Aston Villa, we weren't the most convincing. But if that's the case, then it will be difficult. And on Monday Night Football, next Monday, we've got Leeds United against Liverpool. Another tough game at Ellen Road. Leeds obviously will be coming up. They had an amazing 2-1 win over Man City after being down to 10 men. So they'd be, high on morale, and, they're going to give us a tough game. They gave us a real good game on opening day at Anfield, and they're going to give us an even tougher game, I think, at Ellen Road. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting game to look at, to watch. And the form that Liverpool are in, Leeds will fancy their chances. So, yeah, that's my thing. Looking forward to an interesting week. Hopefully, we don't get dumped out of the Champions League. But knowing Liverpool, I know it will be difficult. But that is going to bring this episode of Liverpool on Tuesdays to an end. Hopefully, you guys are enjoying this series. Next year, I'll be transitioning to YouTube as well. There's preparations going on for all of that. This podcast will have a different look. There'll be stuff on YouTube, content on YouTube coming up as well. Hopefully you guys can support that. And I guess that's pretty much it in terms of teasing you a little bit about next season. But wherever you are, stay safe, stay indoors, or if you go outdoors, take all precautions. Take the vaccine if it's available. And wherever you are, stay safe. I will see you guys next time. Goodbye.